So feel free to chill, and we will be starting up soon. All right. Boom, boom, boom. All right. Sounds awesome. Let's do this. So, hi, everybody. My name is Rodgon. I am an artist, I'm a designer, and today we are going to be drawing together. So, what are we going to be doing today? Well, today I feel like I want to actually teach a little bit of a lesson. So, what that involves is I'm going to show you guys the different stages in which we learn and how we progress from one stage to the other. And we're going to do this in stages. I'm going to do it with little graphics so it's nice and entertaining for you guys. Let me just make sure that I have everything framed nicely, and let's do this. All right, so when we first start drawing, okay, what's going on? Oh, there you go. All right, when we first start drawing, we normally are but little things out in the world, just trying to, draw like all the things that we really like to do. So that involves drawing like anime and, and drawing like all the cool things like horses and cats and things that we really just enjoy. These are the very early stages of our drawing. And this is the stage that kind of gets us hooked, right? This is where we decide that, oh my God, this is kind of like a really cool thing to do. Maybe the person's even younger. Let's make them even younger by reducing the size of the jaw. It's gonna start zooming in a little bit more so you guys can see more of the drawing, less of the screen. Let's make this guy really little. So I'm talking about the ages of like 5 or 6 at this point, right? We are young, we are impressionable, and we like cartoons. So for the most part, we are normally into art just because of the things that we see or that we experience or that our friends like. Little kids have a very small little feature zone. Normally the details of the noses and stuff like that are not necessarily super apparent. Some big cheeks and stuff. So when we're little, the first things that we learn to draw are basic shapes like circles, squares, triangles, and squiggles. Right? Those tend to be the elements that we learn to draw first. With those elements, we tend to get pretty creative and we come up with a lot of cool things. Clean this up as we go. Working digitally is very interesting to me. Mostly because I get the chance to undo a lot, right? And sometimes that like bothers me. Because then I start thinking too much about perfection instead of just allowing my art to do its thing. Kind of like why I like drawing with ballpoint pen. I like drawing with ballpoint pen because it does not allow me the chance to erase. It's a very unforgiving medium. So whenever I do get a chance to erase, you'll see me like go back and forth like a million times. And it's borderline like OCD status. Okay. Let's say we have a little kid, some big bright eyes that have not been yet dulled by the cruel world out there. And don't worry, this is not going to have like a negative undertone for like your career path as an artist. It's more so going to give you guys a little bit of a heads up as to what to expect if you have not gotten to that part of your career yet. Let's make that. And since I have like literally no timeline here, I'm not under a deadline to like finish this video in like an hour or something. I'm gonna talk until I'm like done explaining my points and creating the graphics that I need, because this is gonna be for a little talk as well for a course that I need to do for 21 Draw. So I gotta come up with some concepts and some, you know, art stuff. So it needs to be pretty to a certain extent. All right, so when we're little, we develop the ability to draw basic shapes, and we start getting creative with them, right? We start drawing like suns by taking those circular shapes and then using those same circular shapes by just drawing half of them and using those to cut out of another shape. So when you start doing things like this, you're already doing a very conceptualized way of drawing, which means that you're cutting out elements with that same element, right? That is all that starburst is. So first we start with basic shapes. We don't really think about depth. We don't really think about how like proportioned it is or anything. We don't really even think about creating straight lines at this point. We're just having fun, and we normally just color outside the lines and we draw over the lines, and we're just ecstatic that we just managed to draw anything, right? That applies to like learning how to draw like little trees, right, with triangles and, you know, things like that. Little tiny tricks that begin your journey into your mental library, as I call it, right? Learning to combine basic shapes to create something else. Let's see, we didn't create something with, oh, something simple that everybody always draws. A house, right? It combines all of those shapes. So things like this are elements that we start using all these four basic elements for. Little chimney, some boxes for the chimney, a triangle for the top, and then as you progress and you get a little bit more like advanced, you start using all those little techniques to draw things in the background. Maybe you add a bunch of little circles together and make a squiggle that makes a tree with a box. And little by little, you start adding scenes and creating fun stories. Remember, everything related to doing art and creating always comes back to telling a story. Comic books, stories, novels, stories. You try to like do a cover for a book, you're essentially creating the view of what that story's gonna be like. So storytelling is integral in part of art. Even fine art, when you're painting something, you're trying to tell a story of what is happening or the emotions that you're feeling when you're doing that. So it's very integral for you to think of storytelling even when you're in the beginning stages of this. Okay, so that is stage one. Basic shapes. All right, so after we have our basic shapes and we move on to the next stage, that next stage, let me make sure you guys have it, is going to be the, what I like to call a fan art phase, right? When we are a little bit older, not too much older, maybe like we have generated a tiny bit of experience drawing something, and now we want to start drawing that. So I'm gonna draw a kid that's a little bit older than the one that we just drew. And he changed his hairstyle because it's too kiddie and he likes anime, so we're gonna do something like that. He's kind of cool now, so he's gonna have one eyebrow up, one eyebrow down. Eyes are still gonna be relatively big. And maybe we give him like a buck tooth or something, because he's still growing. And yeah, there. So when we get to this stage, I have a bad tendency to give like gigantic cheekbones because I used to draw everything like the Fairly Odd Parents, and that's like a bad habit that I developed from trying to copy a style for so long. So I highly recommend that if you start seeing yourself develop habits like that, like literally like cut them off, because they can set you back like years. Like it took me a long time to get past that. And let me zoom in a little bit more so you guys can see more of the drawing again. All right, so let's look at some comments while I finish this drawing up. Howdy, yay, everyone, Emily Arts, Diego Matesta, hello. I don't know how to pronounce that. Hey, hey, hey. And Jay, there's a book called Malag, Town of Fables by P. Redalia. On page 109, there is a drawing of what looks like you. Oh, shit. Oh, send it to me on Instagram. I'd love to see that. Fred, everyone, good deal. I'm excited. Hi, man. I'm at work. Hey. Well, thanks for jumping on while you're at work. This is more important than work, skinny cake. And all the people over here over on my TikTok, I'm sorry that I can't really look at all the comments from you guys. If you do want to comment and you guys want to be part of the conversation, please join us over on YouTube. That's where I can actually see the chat, and until I get like an assistant that's willing to like sit down and talk art with me and do these with me, I'm kind of stuck doing this on my own, so you know, bear with me. All right, so once we get a little bit older, we start drawing more than just basic shapes. We start adding elements to these basic shapes and combining these basic shapes. So maybe we start thinking of like the basic figure as very basic shapes. And we learn how to do this. Most of the time we do it by learning from a mannequin or from little lessons that we see on YouTube or, you know, books. And they teach us very, you know, simple ways to break down the faces, mostly consisting of measurements of the head, apparently, because apparently the measurement of the head is like a significant factor to measuring blah, 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 blah. And you start acquiring little tiny bits and pieces of, you know, like drawing knowledge. But at this point, this could all pretty much be thrown out. Because you still haven't perceived at this point how to draw things with perspective or depth. So we often find ourselves drawing more really simple characters with really bulgy muscles that don't really make sense, but you know, we know that there's muscles there. And then this is like the very first start of us trying to do anything with anatomy. Okay. And I can show you guys sketches of my stuff at this age when I was going through this, because they look exactly like this. I would draw myself as a superhero, or I draw myself like doing something and I had spiky hair. So I just kept doing that. At this stage as well, we start drawing, we start trying to copy things that we see online. So if it's anime, like it could be like anything from like Dragon Ball, or any anime really, any popular cartoon. Let's draw Kamehameha. But we are not really understanding the concept of foreshortening or anything like that. So it ends up looking normally very, very cartoony, very flat. We don't really know like how to do action stuff or how to like pose things yet. So our like things tend to be like a little bit, not even as close to this as you could probably think. It would probably be at this stage, it'd be more like drawing everything with a same basic stance. That might be a little too complex for this level 2. And hairline probably wouldn't even be like a thing you would know. You would just draw shapes. So when you get to this stage, you tend to start exploring a little bit more about what the shapes might be able to do. This is where you start playing around with combining different shapes and using those elements to create style, because apparently that's a very, very important part when you're young. It's creating something that looks really cool. We don't realize that that's something that we don't really have to concern ourselves with at first, but that's honestly the reason that we do art. It's because it's really cool, not because it's gonna make us money at this stage. We don't even care about a career like in this. At this stage, we're probably just like, yeah, I'm gonna create some awesome stuff, and then, you know, if I become the next awesome Disney animator, fantastic. If not, I still have my superhero, right? So that's stage 2, and that's, I'd say, beginning of anatomy stage. Compound shapes. Compound shapes. Yeah, that's more like, it's more like putting together more elements to creating something a little bit more developed. Now, the stage after that is when we start trying to apply style to everything. Now, I'm going to separate things into a little bit of a, because it's going to get mixed up in a second. These 2 stages right here is normally where most people stop. So most people that do not have artistic tendencies, or like the abilities to do it, or they just didn't pursue it, they normally stop within these 2 stages, right? They either stop when not knowing really how to do anything except basic shapes, or they stop when they just drew the things they like for fun, but they didn't really want to do anything more after that. Let's add a cave to this guy. And some so the next stage after that is when we start thinking about a future with our career, or we start thinking that we can actually do something with this. Now that comes along normally when we are starting to hit puberty, or we are like, you know, getting a little bit more confident in our skills, right? I didn't start developing those confident feelings until I was like 20 something, but you know, some people that are not me probably had a more early development stage. Normally at this stage we both feel confident in our art, but we normally don't like to show our art to people as well, because we're afraid of any criticism that might come our way. This might be also come in the way of apologizing if you don't really create something that other people like, or if you are like thinking that your artwork is a little weird because you like drawing something different than what other people like to. And then, you know, it comes with a lot of societal pressure from, you know, people that don't really matter. So let's keep the same hairstyle going. At this stage, he would learn about the messy fronts. Let's draw some eyes. So at this stage, we start thinking that we might be able to do something with our art, right? So we start maybe keeping a sketchbook, which is going to be a big component in your career, right? Keeping and maintaining a proper sketchbook, super important, like, thing. It's almost as important as like a bookkeeper having like a good like account software. Like, your sketchbook is your tool for learning, and your sketchbook is your gateway to getting better. So at this point, that's when you start getting sketchbooks, or any type of notebook. It could be a lined paper. That's what I started in. Or it could just be a normal sketchbook. So but at this point, that's when you normally start collecting your thoughts and ideas. For as bad as they are at the beginning of your drawings, like, you know, stage, remember that everything has growing pains. So you're going to take a while getting used to drawing things in a way that you like. So this is also the time where we start using our skills and we try to draw a lot of fan art. Now that comes in the shape of starting to draw your eyes in popular styles, right? It comes in the shape of trying to learn like with tutorials online, such as the stuff that I provide, and, you know, following along with people and like trying to follow the things that they explain. in that same search for understanding of different types of methodologies to how to create something comes the very basic concepts of learning how to do perspective at a basic level with basic elements. And this is where a lot of people mess up though, right? Because instead of really drilling all these like initial perspective and dimension exercises and like making sure that they understand them, they normally tend to skip over them thinking that they already know how perspective and everything works for them. The assumption of you knowing what you're, like drawing is a very, it's a very harsh realization when a lot of people realize that they don't really know what they think they know about those topics. So explaining to someone to draw a basic perspective plane and then create a basic element of a shape in perspective with a light source creating a shadow, sometimes that's a lot more daunting for people than you guys might think. And these are basic concepts that you normally learn when you start learning about shadows, lighting, perspective, and very basic elements of anatomy. This is where we start realizing that things aren't just almond shapes, right? They have like maybe overlapping lines. Maybe you don't think about the line wave too much, so that would be a later stage. It would be more like you start drawing things more like this. Without any line weight, really, you just start thinking more about the actual shape of things, and that's a progression from just learning how to draw an eye like that. We normally like to draw eyes a lot at this stage as well because it seems to be the most expressive part of the body, and it's also one of the parts that stands out whenever you're talking about style, and everything is about style at this stage, right? Like, oh my god, I have to be an anime artist, I have to be Marvel, blah blah blah, I want to work for Disney, like all this. Like, if you guys understood how easy it is to replicate a style once you figure out the basic foundations of your perspective and anatomy, you guys would be jumping on exercises like these every single day. It's ridiculously like easy to break down styles once you get a little bit more advanced into them. That is stage 3. The intro to career. Intro to career mindset. I'll put it like that. Other things that come along with this is the understanding of the use of different elements like markers, pencils, different brands of erasers, and you start thinking about the quality of your art supplies as opposed to just having something to draw with, which was probably more so the case in this stage. Right? At these two stages, we just kind of draw with whatever someone gives us. At this stage, we start thinking a little bit more about the things that we spend money on. We start prioritizing on art. And that is a big factor right there, because the priority of art over other things is essentially what's going to help you get that mindset that you're going to need later on anyways. Okay, let's read some more comments before we move on to stage 4. Can we see your old stuff? I'll do a sketchbook tour. I have several sketchbook tours with my old stuff, so you guys can probably just look them up over on my channel. Captain Mushi, if you realize you have a bad habit, how would you go about growing from that? Would you integrate it into your own style, or try not to use the bad habit? Well, don't use the habit. If it's a negative habit, like, avoid it. If you are like well aware of it, it's something that you need to adjust for. All right, so now stage 4. Stage 4 to me is where most people that wanted to make it a career stop. And this jaw's too large. Yep. I'm gonna be constantly changing things, so if you guys see me just randomly jump onto a different part of the page, don't worry, I'm still gonna teach the other part. I'm just noticing mistakes and I'm gonna fix them as I go. Alright, so stage 4. Now this is what I would call the pre-college, or the start of college, or start of a career phase if you don't decide you want to go to college. And that's divided into 2 different parts. The self-taught and the school or mentor approach. Okay. So when you go into this next stage, which is stage 4, you get an option of what you want to do with your career. Let's make sure to center that. Now, if you're going to go with these 2 options, which are kind of like the only options that you really have whenever you want to go into art career, you either go to school for it or you are self-taught. Right? There's no in between, right? Well, I guess you could do a little bit of school and then teach yourself the rest, but I digress. If you're gonna be self-taught, you need to understand that it comes with a lot of things that you need to be ready for. Okay? So number 1 is you need to be good about keeping tabs on your own growth. So you have to be responsible, and this is what already eliminates most of you guys with your time. Now, if you have all the free time in the world and you don't use that time to grow and get better, or study, or prioritize your art, being self-taught is not going to work for you. It's simply like, this is the biggest caveat. You need to be able to be responsible with your time and be able to manage a curriculum, which you can find online for most schools, and teach yourself. That means videos, lessons, copying, follow along videos, tutorials, and an active mindset of never being completely ready. You need to have the ability to tell yourself that no matter how good you are or what you've learned, there's always something else to learn. Okay? So that is something that is very important. You might not be going to a class, but at the same time, you need to still get all the knowledge that people are getting in class to be able to be competitive. So if you don't do this for yourself, you're literally just falling behind, and it's going to be really hard for you, right? So if you don't have that mindset yet, but you still want to do it, it only takes 2 weeks. 2 weeks to set a habit. Just 2 weeks. Do something for 2 weeks. Force yourself to do it for 2 weeks, and you'll actually have a good habit. All right, so let's move on to the next part. If you're self-taught, you're going to need to practice a lot. A ton. Right? You're going to need to go and practice and put everything that you are learning into motion. You're going to need to understand that you are responsible for your own growth. So it's you against everybody, not a team of you or you and your classmates. No, it's you. So if you're going to go into any competitions to show your skill level, you need to get in there and you need to show that shit. You need to understand a lot more and be more aware of your like path and surroundings and everything that you have around you so that you can actually get in the mindset of learning, right? Always be a student. Sorry, I'm not gonna take lives for this one. Sorry about that. So always be a student. Always see how you can learn something from other people around you. Anybody that's better than you or more knowledgeable, regardless of their skill level. If they're more knowledgeable about a topic, milk their brain. Be a sponge. Absorb everything. And then go take notes. Repeat it. Repeat everything. And then use your experience to leverage something better for you. And every time you learn something new, you leverage that for something better, something higher. And that is the only way that it's really available for you to be progressive when you're self-taught. If you don't do this, if you don't apply what you learn to your real life situations and you apply this to what you want to create for yourself as a future, it's never going to happen. You need to actually progressively teach yourself new things so you make yourself more valuable to your employers or to clients or just to your own brand. So the more you know, the more you can create and the more versatile you can be. This is so accurate. Yes, I got stuck for drawing almond eyes. Yeah. John Thomas, hello from the UK. Woohoo! Drawing spheres and cubes doesn't give me the same feeling that I get when I draw Batman or a superhero. I kind of draw and then go back to try to understand the basic concepts. I'm sorry, but that's a very bad approach. When you draw Batman, right? If you are drawing Batman and you are just drawing the shapes that you like see, right? You're just drawing the lines and you're following like along with it. You're gonna get a cool Batman, right? You might get like a really cool, fun design that somebody else drew. I don't like that nose. Let's make it. But the real challenge is not to copy somebody else's drawing. It's to understand how they did it so you can break the rules that they broke and figure out ways to create your own stuff from them. And that's only really available to you once you understand what shapes are there and how you can change those shapes and manipulate those shapes yourself. And that comes with a lot of knowledge of basic shapes, right? If you wanted to move this Batman character and you wanted to have him have his head in a different direction, unless you understand that these are three-dimensional shapes, you're gonna be stuck being only able to draw from that one viewpoint. But if you understand them like this, you can start moving your shapes around as much as you want, and you can draw Batman from every angle possible without concerning yourself with absolutely any restriction when it comes down to style. And that only happens when you actually practice these things. If you don't sit down and practice these things, like, you can think that you know it. In theory, everybody knows how to create a cube, right? In theory, everybody knows it. Like, everyone that's watching this can sit down and draw a cube. Okay, but now is this an isometric perspective, or is that normal, actual, real perspective? Well, in this case, this is isometric perspective, where everything goes in the same direction. If it was more so like a basic, cube going into a single direction point, it'd be more along the lines of this. Now, that is more advanced, like, perspective stuff and like that. But you might not even realize that half the time whenever you're drawing anything, the basic perspective that you're providing this shape is irrelevant. Like, there's no vanishing point to that, right? Because every shape that you draw is going to have its own perspective angles. So you get to decide and dictate that stuff as you go. So learning just the basic ways to subdivide things and how to map them out is the important part. It's not necessarily learning a style. The style can be applied to your shapes after you figure out how to actually draw them. The eyes are just three-dimensional shapes, right? It's a sphere, which is the eyeball with eyelids cut out. That is all an eye is. Let's do it again. The nose bridge is going to cover some of it, but we're going to have an eyeball, eyelids that go around the sphere, which is just drawing something around the sphere, right? And that's my eye. It's not as hard as people think it is. The reason that people think it's hard is because you guys are trying to copy and replicate stylized eyes, which are already breaking the rules. So if you try to copy something that already is breaking the rules, guess what? You're not going to know how the rules of drawing eyes is going to work. You're going to just copy something that somebody else already broke. Not saying that everybody styles are broken, but I mean that if you already know how something is drawn, you can break the rules and create something with that, right? You can stylize once you understand. But unless you understand, you're going to be stuck in the whole notion of style. It's my style. I don't like drawing things like that. It's just my style. Like, I hate that. Like, when people justify, like, oh, well, I don't like to draw hands like real hands because that's not my style. That's just you saying, I don't feel like learning how to draw something properly so that I can get better at my style. It's you saying, I think I'm too good to learn how something is done, and you're telling me that I don't know how to draw it because you told me something critical about my work. That is what I hear. So if you're one of those people, hey, you know who you are. You know who you are. Like, everyone knows it. Like, if you are very proud of your style, odds are you have been in a COVID situation where you think that you already know a lot. Trust me, I was that person. Like, always constantly doing that. We'll go back to the actual lesson in a second. I just felt like drawing ahead. Hello, Rodgon. What's your stance on AI artists scaring and discouraging actual artists? You know what? That's a very interesting one. Okay, you have an understanding of what people used to think when Photoshop came out, right? It came down to, like, people that had been doing coloring jobs and inking jobs and typesetting jobs and stuff like that where like, oh, my jobs are over. Oh, they're gonna take our jobs. And at the end of the day, it's just another tool. So, yeah, maybe we just have to step it up and create something with that. But think of what possibilities we're going to have when we combine our creativity and we find a way or an angle to manifest that through the AI. We're going to create entire fucking worlds. Like, yeah, it's going to be really cool that the AI can bust out some stock imagery really, really easy for advertisers. Fuck them, who cares? That's not the way the world is going. Soon enough, corporations will crumble, and that shit is going to go down back to like independent stuff. So just wait it out. Learn about it. Learn to use it so that you are prepared when the next stage of design comes. So you can use it as a tool. You can see it as something to a challenge to set up to and learn about it, or you can just not and think that it's the end of the world. I personally like to think of things a lot in like a positive light. Honestly, like companies like Nike, Reebok, Adidas can go get their AI art and fuck it, who cares? Like that's not. I know for a fact that's not my audience, right? So I don't really care about that. It sounds a little insensitive, I guess, but honestly, it's just it will never affect my love for art, or it's not gonna scare me either. It's not gonna deter me from it. Even if they did take all our jobs, I would still be drawing and creating because nothing's gonna replace me. Nothing can really replace you. And if they can, hey, man, hey, show me so I can get better too. Shit. All right, let's go back to our lesson. So, stage 4 of the career path person, right? Okay, well, looks really interesting. If you're drawing Batman properly, you're going to be drawing all cubes, shapes, values, and colors. There shouldn't be much difference between intermediate studies of Batman fundamentals. Yeah? My main option seems to be teaching myself. I can discipline myself. Oh, okay. You guys share his channel to your friends from... Hey, that'd be awesome if you guys did. If you guys shared my work and stuff like that, that'd be awesome. Okay, so if you're self-taught, let's go back to this. You have to be responsible with your time. Be able to manage a curriculum for yourself and teach yourself. With videos, lessons, copying, follow along tutorials, try to get mentorships, and anything that gets you in the door with somebody that knows more than you. Absorb what they know and then move on to a next person. Practice a ridiculous amount. You need to draw at least 2 times as much as anyone going to school, just to be able to keep up with the amount of stuff that these people have to deal with. And you got to remember that you're always a student. If you ever settle and know that you're already too good, then you are doing something really, really wrong and you're doing yourself a disservice. Okay? Those are going to be the main points with being self-taught. It's also going to be less money, right? It's not going to cost you much because most information is already out there. So that's a very big plus, right? That is mostly the reason why people go this route. You can make money as you learn. And experience. As you learn, as you go. So if you get in the habit of learning a new thing, let's say you learn how to use InDesign and now you know how to make books or pamphlets. Now you use that skill to make yourself money. And that way you can be like, okay, I'm going to do some pamphlets. I'm going to do some samples of something that uses this skill set. Save those samples so that you have a portfolio piece to show whenever a job gets presented that requires those skill sets and you don't have to go build something. So learn something, create something for yourself that's creative and fun and you, like, and just strictly you. And then integrate that into your normal day-to-day stuff by like literally finding ways to incorporate that new skill set into what you do. If you just learn Photoshop, start digitally coloring everything. Start using it to refine your photos. Learn the shortcuts. Take the time. There's challenges. There's fun games that you can play with Photoshop too. Just learning all the keyboard shortcuts, seeing how fast you can do things and stuff like that. All that is very much required so that you can be able to make money as you go, therefore creating an asset instead of a person that's going to school that's going to be generating negative debt. And more than anything, prioritizing is high. Okay? You are not getting help from anyone else in this stage. So you need to prioritize the fact that you are going to have to focus on art being your career. Okay? That means don't go partying every day if you can't maintain your learning schedule alongside it. I'm not saying be a bore and don't do anything. You need to experience life as well. But try to integrate, go drawing and drinking. Go to a party and bring your sketchbook and just draw people. I promise you that is the easiest way to make friends as an artist, by the way. Just draw people at parties and they will absolutely love you. Okay, that is just my basic tip for you guys. Let's see. Yeah, if you're drawing, there are people that like a specific style, such as a Bruce Timm, and only care to reproduce that particular style of work. Yes, you'll never grow as an artist, but hey, when it's limited, you gotta you don't have to pick and choose. Like, that is a ridiculous statement. Like, you don't need to pick and choose from styles that you want to learn. If you want to learn a Bruce Timm style, you learn the Bruce Timm style as you learn through your basics. And you're going to apply your basic shapes to that and your basic forms to that. If you were just saying, like, cool, that's all I want to do, then hey, that's awesome. But really, like, why are you even listening to someone teaching? Because if that's all you want to learn, just get a couple of Bruce Timm books Bruce Timm books, and then just learn how to draw Batman like Bruce Timm. There's a ton of tutorials like that. Like, learning a style should not take more than a week. Normal animators have to get acclimated to an actual style within even less than that if they want to be good at something. So that is just not. I just don't like thinking like that, because that's a very closed-minded mindset, right? Like, if you have a career path, you wouldn't think like that. You can't think like that. Like, if you're you can be a hobbyist and think like that and just do it for fun. But if you're trying to actually be an artist and live doing this, you can't do that. You can't limit yourself to a single style. You'll starve to death. Like, you'll never make any money. When is my new course on 21 Draw coming out? It should be coming out soon. I think I might still need to deliver some files to them. I'll have to check with them, but they should have the whole everything, so it should be coming out very, very soon. All right, so that is going to be the main points for being self-taught. At stage 4, we also decide sometimes to go to school. What does that come with? Number 1 thing that you need to be aware of: debt. Okay? Debt. How much of this shit am I gonna have to pay back? Have to pay. Right? Guys, and I don't say this lightly, be very careful when you take any loans. Careful. Careful. Do not go willy-nilly and just get loans just to go to art school. Jesus Christ, please do not. I have friends that have been doing this for 20 years and they have not been able to pay their student loans. They are some artists in the industry and they owe like $150,000 when they only took out $60,000. Don't go into this lightly. This will fuck up your life if you don't think about this. Okay? Like, honestly, like, I'm being super real with you guys. Do not take student loans and shit like that lightly. Like, don't just sign up for them not knowing what you gotta pay back, the interest rates, if you're able to pay it back with the career that you're choosing. And that is why you need to make your, when you go to school, you need to make sure there is a market. Make sure there are jobs in your area. Research, please research this shit. Schools like the Art Institute got fined like $7 billion for saturating the market with photographers and designers that were not able to be hired. Okay, so do your research. That is so important. Like, you need to really do your research. I know that a lot of little art pamphlets and shit are like very, very like appealing for art schools, but when you look at job placements, it should not say Kinko's or Target as industry jobs. That's what the Art Institute did. That's why their hiring process was like 90% acceptance rate, because they had shit like Costco, Kinko's, and Target as industry jobs. So for the love of God, please, if you are going to go to school, research. Okay? Research. So important. We'll get into the good stuff in a second. Deontay Miley, Photoshop versus Clip Studio versus Procreate. Okay, so Photoshop is just an industry standard, so you just need to know it. Like, it just needs to be known, right? You can't get by in a career in art without knowing Photoshop. But Clip Studio is better for illustrating in general. Just for drawing itself, Clip Studio is better in my opinion. But on the iPad, Clip Studio sucks because the layout's just not the same. But Procreate is amazing, especially if you're a content creator. Deontay Miley, I've been doing digital art since 2012 and I tried most software, and in my opinion, Photoshop's the best on PC and Metabang and iPad. I have not tried Metabang. I tried Adobe Fresco though, and that was really good. Okay, so let's, after you do all your research and you are ready to actually proceed to go to art school, the next stage is do not fuck around. Yes, I am that person. If you are going to school for art, don't waste that time fucking around. Okay? Use this time wisely. Your time wisely. Okay? Make friends, go out partying, go do that stuff. But for the love of God, focus on your artwork in your career, right? The 4 years or 3 or 4 years that you get in art school is the only time in your life that you will most likely have a gigantic amount of people with the same goals and like-minded that are willing to collaborate and create amazing things because you're all thirsty and hungry for it, right? So those 3 years go by really quickly. And within those 3 years, you need to both understand an entire art field. You need to be able to be competitive with both these people because they will be competing for the jobs you ask for and you go for. And also you need to be in good standing with them because through these people, your network that you develop over these 4 years is what's going to get you jobs pretty much throughout your whole entire career. To this day, I have given jobs to many of the people that I went to school with. So normally that network is very valuable, and it's the biggest reason that you go to art school, right? To be able to network better and, focus. Push for internships heavily. Internships while you're going to school is going to be the easiest way to get experience while being able to get your foot in the door into a certain job by the time you graduate. So these are very important. Please focus on it. If you have to, sacrifice whatever you need to get these, because these things are what going to push you in the door. I don't say that lightly either. And if it comes down to if you are not in dire need and you are not in survival mode, push for these as heavy as you can. If you're on survival mode fucking sucks, right? And that happens to a lot of students too. And that comes down to, let me explain what survival mode is. Survival mode is when you only have money enough to survive and not much to invest in yourself, right? So that means that you work, school, pay debt, and end up having to work so you can go to school, so you can pay debt. And this cycle is straight up survival mode. Same thing happens to a lot of students. It happens to people over here too, That's why it's so critical to understand your loans, because this is going to be a huge factor in your life if you do not pay attention and you make sure you have manageable loans. And we lost 90% of our viewers in TikTok because we started talking about this shit. But god damn, if you guys do not think of this at this stage, you are gonna, even if you don't continue in art, you guys are gonna fuck up your lives. I love using Krita on PC. Ooh, I've never tried Krita either. I'll have to try that. So, once you're out of this, you can pursue more interesting topics like this, right? A lot of the times you're going to have to work through Get to School. Your work should be as related to the industry as possible. Work. If you're going to be an illustrator or a designer or a graphic designer or marketing or anything like that, a good place to work at are t-shirt places, t-shirt print shops, any print shop in general is a great place to work while you do it. So even though I was saying and mocking it, places like Target have print shops, Costco, Kinko's, stuff like that have print shops. If you're going into graphic design or marketing, that's a very good skill set to learn. As an illustrator, it's good to learn these things so that you can set up your artwork properly whenever you want to produce your own t-shirts or you want to make your own prints. Right? So these are all valuable assets that will help you with your freelancing later, not necessarily your schoolwork. Other places you can work in, caricature shops, And these are like theme parks at parks and stuff like that. This is something you could do for yourself as well if you learn the skill. Caricature gigs are also a big thing. Body painting gigs, like face painting and stuff like that, help you actually paint consistently, and you do get relatively good with paints thanks to that. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is try to find a job that's going to give you any sort of valuable asset or work experience that's going to help you with something else down the line. Like, avoid jobs that are not going to do any of that for you and still drain you of your energy and just barely help you get out of survival mode, okay? All right, so let's see. Yeah, don't fuck around, use your network, push for internships, experience, survival mode, work, school, debt. Okay. One big factor, your degree is not that important in the industry. Important. Very few places that will hire designers or artists will give two damns about what school you went to. Your portfolio is what matters. Portfolio and work experience is much more valuable than any degree is going to be. Okay, so yes, you can have like highest honors and be the valedictorian and blah 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 blah, whatever the hell you want. I was the highest honors and 1 point away from a valedictorian in my school. I have never gotten a job because I got perfect grades. So focus on your portfolio and work experiences over grades. Honestly, just graduate. Get that degree. But don't mess around. Don't just like go play Magic the Gathering like I did. And video games. And it's very easy with so many cool people that you meet that you're going to want to, you know, like be a part of it. Let's see. We'll have to come up with a drawing for those two. But then we come to what I call the wall. The wall is a bitch. The wall is something that we have to come to terms with if you want to be an artist for a living. I'll explain that in a second. So, even when we are self-taught and we go to school, at the end of the day, we end up with this big, gigantic obstacle that we need to mentally overcome if we are to actually want to do this for a career and not like melt down and kill ourselves. Because this is the measure of why so many people go into depression after they finish their studies. Okay. And that is the fact that what you love to do art for is not all, it's not valuable to others. And that sounds very harsh to say, but that's very true, right? We come to the realization that the thing that we decided to learn as we were getting better at this, right? We're like, oh my god, I love drawing my superheroes. I love drawing my comics. I like drawing my stories. I like journaling my life. I'm gonna make this into a career because I want to be the next Walt Disney. Blah 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 blah. You go through all this and learning and teaching and experiences, and then you come to realize that it's not just about getting good at your drawings. You need to find some way to make money with it, right? And if you're not employed, let's say you don't get a job. Let's say that you don't get hired off like after college, or as you are like learning and teaching yourself, you just don't get the luck that you want and just can't land that first gig. You can't do that. So right, that's this wall. That's us slamming into it head first without really understanding what the hell that came from, because we had so many good like hopes and expectations, and then we probably constantly get bounced back, get pushed back until maybe something comes through the wall, right? This wall of finding out that you might not be able to make a living with what you really want to do is going to be a huge deterrent to even people that have finished college doing this. This is not something that anybody prepares you, and it is literally nothing that anybody can do to like give you like an idea of the shock that comes along with that. Like, I know that I jumped into art very, very, very not like knowing what the industry was. I thought illustration was just animation, which wasn't either one of those. And then I ended up in graphic design. And then I switched majors because I didn't know graphic design was just letters. Let's say, like, short story short, like what I wanted to do art for was to journal my life. And I found out that even though I learned a lot of other skills and like I learned all these different techniques and everything, at the end of the day, what I wanted to do was not going to be what my career was. I still pushed through, and me being the optimistic person that I am, you know, I just learned as much as I possibly could, and I was happy with something of a parallel path, right? Let me explain that. Because that is stage 5. Finding the parallel paths to be happy with your career. Now, you will find that some art fields are very similar to what you like to do, but they might not be exactly what you like to do or what you aim to do when you went into your career. Being able to learn a lot of different skill sets allows you for more of these paths to open up. Now, let's say that you like drawing, and your main goal was to draw comics. So you learned a lot of drawing, but this just never ended up happening. Or maybe you just ended up not liking like doing like multiple sequential panels, or for some reason just this doesn't pan out. Parallel paths to that would be something similar to doing covers for books, kids books, children's books, teenager books. Just doing the covers, doing storyboards could be another thing that you know, since you have the knowledge of movement and paneling. So it could be storyboarding is more towards animation, so maybe it's not a completely parallel path, but it's one that's slightly offset, but it still would make you very happy most likely, because it's a very similar concept. The other one could be illustration in general. Maybe you just like doing static cool t-shirt designs, or like card like, you know, illustrations and things for promotional things like bags for Comic-Con, crap like that. So that would be a parallel path to comics, which would still lead with superheroes and everything that you really want to do, but it would be geared more towards maybe illustration rather than sequential art. So finding these parallel paths are going to be your key to finding happiness in what you do as you learn the skill sets that will get you to that final path you want. So maybe doing illustration and storyboards for a while make you strong enough in storytelling and drawing to be able to go back to your comic then down the line. Right? So building, building, and then jumping onto what you really want is going to be a gigantic success, even if something is very far off the path. Then let's say that you liked, I don't know, let's say graphic design. Okay. And now everything in between here can be things like graffiti, which takes into illustration. It could be motion graphics, because now you know about motion and like storytelling, and now you know graphic design. Video editing could jump in there too if you have a combination of all these three. You could be an editor. You could create books at this point. All those things fall in between these things. In between still illustration and storyboards could be kids' books. Right? Anything for cereal boxes, characters, stuff like that. You get the idea of what I mean. So once you find out that you, stage 5, what you love to do is not all that valuable to others, and then you have to find a parallel path. If you don't do this, if you don't start looking for other options that are similar, let me report these people over here because the sex bots are coming up. I hate this so much. Anyways. All right. So once we have the ability to cross that, it's only going to bring us happiness if we find a parallel path to what we want to do, and then build up towards our final outcome. Right? That's stage 5. If you can manage to get past that, you have successfully made it into professional lifelong artistry, which brings us down to stage 6. And that comes with relearning a lot of the shit that we do. So stage 6, learning that you don't know shit. You know nothing. Right? This is when we have come to the point where we have stagnated with our art. Right? We have like a certain style, and we have achieved some cool things with our art. We got a job, or we created some really nice thing and we made some money with it. Way, woohoo, we're professional now. This is the stage where most people never get to. And it comes down to revisiting your fundamentals now that you're experienced. When you started drawing, you probably weren't thinking too much about the actual fundamentals of perspective. You probably do not think about elements like anatomy and perspective. At this point, you're probably still drawing stylized things that have gotten you success. But at this point, this is when you go back to your basics and you start refining your skills until you have a perfect knowledge of your basics, and then you're able to start creating your own style. Right? This is when you should have enough knowledge to understand every lesson that you probably did not understand before. right? Now you're able to unlock all those things that did not make sense when you were learning. So now you get that chance to go back and revisit things and see if what you learn and what you're doing is actually something that's gonna help you, and if you need to refine everything. Like, just doing that alone helped me immensely when it came down to drawing in general, like especially the female figures. Like, I spent an entire year figuring out how to draw more appealing character shapes, and little by little you just start realizing that once you understand the elements and how things move in 3D, sculpting these things is really easy. But I wasn't able to see it like that until I decided that I was going to revisit all my fundamentals. Like, I would still be drawing the same, like, stylized faces and stuff like that I had been doing for years. And, you know, like at one point I saw that I had no growth and I was not changing, and I don't know, it just felt boring because I already knew how to draw everything I was drawing. So, like, I went back, I was like, all right, I'm gonna open up these, like, Michael Hampton books and just see, like, what he knows that I don't know, acting all cocky and shit. And then I was like, oh shit, oh shit, oh shit, I don't know how to do that. Oh, cool, fuck, oh, really? Oh man, oh, that makes so much more sense now. That's a box? Oh, that's why it's a box. Oh, it's a cylinder. Oh, that overlapping, oh my god. You just start, like, understanding what the more experienced artist already knew before you even tried, right? And once you, like, go back and revisit those, that's when you start having a lot of fun with this shit, right? If you manage to get to this point and fight your way through all that stuff that we talked about, right? The wall, the education that you need, the drive, the fact that, you know, like, maybe what you do is not going to be what you get to do, like, and be happy doing some creative stuff. You know, stuff like that is soul draining sometimes. And some people just can't get over that, right? Because it's like a lot of people, like, love their work so much that it's so hard for them to think that they won't get to do that for their life, for their job, for their career. So, and I get it, man, I get it. Like, it'd be fucking soul crushing to me, and it was. But I kind of got over it because I sucked at art anyways. Right? I know that sounds kind of, like, weird to say, but I was bad at it, so I was just kind of happy with anything that came my way. Probably not the best way to go about a career in doing something. But unfortunately, that's, like, the way that I had to approach it because I had absolutely no experience with it. So I just persevered and pushed through, and whenever I learned something new, I would just push through it. So let's revisit the stages so you guys have a better understanding. Okay, so stage 1, basic shapes, and essentially just combining those little shapes into little elements of color, right? So we normally have very basic elements, and we use those to combine and create different things. Stage 2 is when we start using compound shapes. That's when we start using references or looking at things and then, like, using that to create our characters. We normally don't concern ourselves too much with detail or perspective or anything like that, and we're more just really happy about creating something cool. Then we get to stage 3, which is your intro into a career or artist mindset, which comes along with, normally in around high school, middle school area, and it comes down with copying a lot of artwork, learning a little bit about perspective and shading and lighting and shadows and certain methodologies like learning eyes are almonds, and then you start getting used to using some tools. Right, you have markers, erasers, whatever, and a sketchbook. Normally a sketchbook is accompanied with this stage as well, in the way of a notebook or some way to organize your drawings. From there, we go to stage 4, which comes with a bunch of info. That's normally the start of your career, and this is where you decide if you're going to be self-taught or you're going to go through the school. We talked about having to be responsible with your time, manage your curriculum, teach yourself with videos, lessons, tutorials, all that stuff. You need to practice twice as much as most people on the arts side, and you always have to be on the lookout for something you can learn. You have to spend less money to do it, and you make more experience as you learn, but you need to set it as a high priority, and you need to learn skills that are going to make you money. Okay? If you go to school, absolutely most important shit, please. Debt, student loans, research. If you are not doing that, I am going to kick your butt, because I do not want to see you guys not succeed. So please be very careful with that. If you go to school, don't mess around. It's going to be 4 years only. Network the hell out of it. Try to push your internships. Try to get out of survival mode if you can. And work as you go to school in places that will give you relevant skills. Your degree is not going to be all that important at the end. It's going to be more of your portfolio and your work experiences. So who cares about being valedictorian or honors or getting an A, an A plus? Who cares? Unless you're using that for scholarships, don't care. Stage 5, once you graduate or you think you're ready to go at it full time, you're going to come to a realization that maybe you don't get to do the things that you wanted to do. And that is going to stop a lot of you from continuing on. That tends to happen. I think most of the people that I went to school with don't do art because they couldn't get past this, okay? This is also a chance for you to think of being an entrepreneur as well. But, once you break through this, you need to understand a little bit of everything around there so you can be an entrepreneur. It's kind of hard to be a business owner in an industry you don't understand. So you need to learn. That's why you need to learn through experiences and jobs at first. It sucks, but that's just how it is, unfortunately. I don't like that peachy face. All right, and then we get to stage 6 where you go back and then you just realize that you need to revisit all your initial lessons that you've learned and unlearn. That is a big part. Hold on, let me write it down. You need to unlearn the bad habits, and that's a gigantic factor. Unlearn bad habits or lessons you've learned. Okay? And then there's another stage after that, but that just comes more to learning how to explain things to other people. And if you're able to explain something to someone, how you explain it is going to give you an understanding of how much you know it. So that's a good way to measure if you understand a topic or not. So, make yourself a little bit of a challenge and try to explain something like this through a video to me. Tag me with some basic thing that you learned to draw, and then I'll see how well you guys do. That'd be amazing. That'd be a really cool challenge. So explain something to me in a minute. draw it and explain it to me in a minute and tag me. And then I would love to see that. Hi, Rod from PH. Ooh, Dab. I'm back. I only shared on my family. Oh, thank you. I stopped at 5. I don't know how to value my work. Germany, he said he's still done with his lesson. He will always be there for you wherever it happens. Okay, so, all right. Seriously, I wish you could have been my parent growing up because this is fire and childhood sucks. Oh my god, I don't know if you would want me as your parent. I'd just be drawing and like you'd be like, Dad, you're supposed to take me to middle school things. I'm like, oh, we can just draw. Yeah, let's just draw it. You don't need to live it. Just draw it. That would be a horrible dad. All right, people on TikTok, show me some love. Click the little heart button as many times as you can. People on YouTube, if you guys want to do me a solid, subscribe to the channel. It helps. Share it with your friends if you guys enjoy what I do. You know, if you guys do get something, share my stuff. You guys might get more of me doing this, you know, more. And if you guys did get any value, consider purchasing my books or donating little like diamonds or whatever the hell you guys do on TikTok. I don't know what you guys do. People over on over here, I'll put my PayPal and shit like that if you guys want to buy me a coffee at some point. That'd be really cool. I'm going to start saving up because I'm going to be moving to Scotland for a couple months. So, I'm going to try to make this into a full-time thing. So, yeah, that's going to be in February. So I have a couple months to get this going and started. So all the help you guys provide is going to be amazing. Thank you guys so much. Hope you guys had a really good lesson. Hope you guys learned a little bit over this last hour and a half. And if you guys have any topics you guys want to talk about, drop them over on Instagram. That's where I see all your comments. And we're having a little cool thing where if you guys send a pose, I'm going to use those drawings to create fun doodles every day. So, interaction. Yay! Fan base. Yay! All right. So, you guys have a wonderful day. Love you all. And I will check you guys all out next time. Peace. Later, Gators.